Today it's time for us to check out the Marshall JVM 410H. Marshall JVM 410H is a flagship of the Marshall amp company, and to me it's the best Marshall head which I know, which I've ever played. And I put out a couple of videos on my channel over the years with that amp. Although you may know that I don't use amp heads very often, but this is something where I would say I can clearly understand the concept behind that amp, and I think they did a great job. So it's a 4-channel amp with the clean channel, crunch channel, OD1 and OD2. And as the names imply, OD1 and OD2 are more for the distorted tones. Clean is for maybe clean and crunch is maybe for crunch and heavy crunch, however you may call it. And they all feature a volume, bass, middle, treble, gain control, and each channel has 3 modes: green, orange and red. Then you have a reverb section where you can assign the amount of reverb for each channel, 2 master controls, and resonance and presence control. Currently I'm playing the OD2 mode with my Harley Benton Fusion. This one is modified, it has the Tone Rider pickups. So these were the 3 modes in the OD2 channel, and it's my favorite, or one of my favorite settings, but I have to say the amp can sound great with different settings and also with drastic EQ settings I will show you in a second. But currently I'm playing bass at 1 o'clock, mids at 1 o'clock, treble at 11 o'clock and gain at 10 o'clock. That is the reason why I can use all 3 modes, because the amp has tons of gain, and if I set, for example, the gain at 3 o'clock, it tends to get very noisy, although I'm using a noise gate in the effects loop, but it's not working anymore with gain settings after 2 o'clock in the OD2 mode. It's way too much gain for my taste. So with OD2, if you want to use the red mode, I wouldn't go further than 12 o'clock with the gain. So let me show you. Everything at 12 o'clock sounds like this. Can get a little bit harsh in the top end. So let's say gain at 11 o'clock and everything else at 12 o'clock except the volume. By the way, presence is set around 10 o'clock and resonance about 1 o'clock for all these sounds now. And let's compare OD1 and OD2 red mode. So this is OD1. So I think it's pretty obvious that OD1 has way more lower mids and sounds a little bit thicker, but that is not the best choice for every application. If you're playing fast riffage, maybe I would prefer OD2. Although not with that setting. I'm playing at room volume. No, it's more than room volume, but still not band volume. But if you would crank this amp, it would be really harsh in the top end. So I would rather dial back the treble and, as I said, a little bit more mids, a little bit more bass frequencies. For example, if you crank the mids and dial back the treble, you get a nice fat lead tone. And also one trick is if you dial back everything to 0, bass, middle and treble, and then open up the treble, okay, it tends to get quiet. You have to increase the volume, but open up the treble and a little bit of the mids. Sounds also nice and completely different than before, at least to my ears. More like a maybe Silver Jubilee. So more traditionally. And also some people are using a trick to make it sound like a plexi. Everything in the OD2 red mode. So crank the mids, bass to 0, treble to taste. Maybe let's set it to 1 o'clock. Dial back the gain to maybe 7 o'clock. And then you have this tone. But of course you can go through the modes and the beautiful thing about that amp is the character of the channel. It stays the same in every mode, just the amount of gain changes. Even the volume doesn't change, at least not that much if you're in the distorted section. And the channels themselves, they vary slightly different, as I showed you with the OD1 and OD2. So it's not drastically different, so that you could use both channels, I think, in the same live application for different songs maybe, or different parts of the songs, and your front of house engineer wouldn't go nuts because you're changing the sounds too much. Anyway, so let's dial it back to my favorite settings, and let's compare maybe the orange modes of my favorite settings in both channels here. So OD2, let's see, how did I set it? Like maybe we could set the gain about 12 o'clock on both channels. By the way, the amp is very noisy. If I turn off the effects loop with the noise gate, you can immediately hear the background noise. Okay, let's go over the other channels. Crunch channel, starting with the clean mode, everything at 12 o'clock. Back to 12 o'clock, orange. It's supposed to be, I guess, a JVM 800 tone, so I'd rather set it a little bit more high-end heavy. Now the gain is cranked, so let's dial it back a little bit. I don't own a JVM 800. I cannot compare them side by side, but it goes definitely into that direction. And let's check out the clean channel. So if you are keeping everything at 12 o'clock, then the green channel and the green mode in the clean channel can get a little bit quiet. So here I think you can hear the difference in the red mode if you compare, maybe let's choose the same settings, clean and crunch channel. So the clean channel is way more bass heavy. Maybe let me get some delay. So I think this is one of the few Marshalls that I know that has great clean tones, and also a channel that stays clean pretty much. And of course, where this amp really shines are the crunch tones. You can get nearly everything which I would expect from any Marshall, like the Plexis or the JCM 800s or the JTM. I'm not an expert of Marshall amps, but from the tones that I know, I can definitely recognize these with, when playing these channels. So here it's more or less what reminds me to JCM 800 tones. Here in the red mode it's more like the JTM, I guess, or however it is called, JM45. And then of course you have the OD channels, which don't need any kind of boost or something, which you find only in the JVM series as far as I know. Compared to the DSL here, it's way more flexible. Does it sound better? The DSL sounds kick-ass for what it can do. It can do great rock tones, great crunch tones. If you boost it, you can get great lead tones. But it doesn't have like great clean section like this amp, and also it's not, of course, MIDI controllable, and so this is way more flexible, and this is also very budget friendly, and here in Europe at least comes around 1,200 euros. For example, the Mesa Mark series amps, they go around maybe 4,000 or 3,800 euros as far as I know. And yeah, it's really a versatile amp which I can recommend to anybody who needs a wide variety of tones. And also it cannot do the classic Marshall tones, as I showed you. It has the very flexible tone stack here where you can get singing leads and whatnot. So hope this helps you to get an impression of this amp, and of course consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't.